So this is our homeboy home pig Chuy, and this is our dissection. Before starting the dissection, we determined Chuy's age by using a string to measure from the tip of the snout to the end of its tail. Because the string measured at over 30 centimeters, it was determined that the pig was approximately full term.
We determined Chuy's sex by examining the area posterior to the umbilical cord, which revealed the presence of a scrotal sac in the genital area.
We used yarn to tie Chuy's legs so that we could make the incisions and see what we were doing.
For the initial incisions, we made a small midline incision which then extended around the umbilical cord, with the incision stopping just above the anus. We then made 2 lateral incisions just above the hind legs. Our next incision initiated at the neck, which we then carefully extended downwards along the midline, eventually meeting the previous incisions.
For the fourth incision, we made 2 lateral incisions from the midline incision we made. Then we cut around the front legs, connecting the incision to the one we made around the umbilical cord. Before continuing with the dissection, we went back and made our initial incisions deeper, while using the pipette to get rid of any excess fluid to make sure we could see exactly what we were cutting. We then went back to cut the umbilical cord to be able to see the internal abdominal pelvic region. The scissors were used to help make the incisions deeper. Once the organs were visible, we worked to get the organ block out. To do this, we needed to remove the rib cage. We used a scalpel to remove the diaphragm and the scissors to cut through the ribs. Then we used a scalpel to cut through the connective tissue under the ribs to remove the rib cage. Using the scalpel, we made a cut above the trachea, starting to separate the connective tissue from the trachea. Slowly, we cut the connective tissue behind the lungs, carefully working together. One of us held the organ block while the other would cut the tissue from the organs. With the organ block removed, we started to separate the organs. The lungs are a part of the respiratory system. The heart is the main organ in the cardiovascular system. The liver and gallbladder are both in the digestive system. The kidneys are a part of the urinary system.
The pancreas, stomach, and large intestine all belong to the digestive system, and the spleen belongs to the lymphatic system.
We didn't finish separating the small intestine that belongs to the digestive system, the thymus or thyroid from the trachea and heart that both belong to the endocrine system. And lastly, we didn't finish removing the brain from the skull that belongs to the nervous system. We made a series of incisions to expose the skull, starting with a curved incision above the eyeballs, extending down to the neck. Next, we made a vertical incision from the middle of the ears to the curved incision, followed by a horizontal cut from ear to ear. We then made a cut from shoulder to shoulder, connecting to the initial neck incision. Finally, we made an incision on top of his head to expose the skull cap, and using bone cutters, we carefully chipped away at the skull in a circular motion.
To suture Chuy, we use interrupted sutures. The needle goes in from the far side. Using the tissue forceps, we lift the tissue on the near side and guide the needle through. Then we did a square knot and cut the excess thread. We repeated this 3 times. We also did continuous suturing. To do this, the needle goes in from the far side using the tissue forceps to lift the tissue on the near side, and using the needle holder, we guide the needle in from the far side to the near side. We then use a square knot and cut the short thread. We make another stitch next to the first suture. Then we do 3 more stitches, and on the last one we do a square knot using the loop of the suture and cut off the excess.
So this wraps up the life of Chuy, rest in peace. And for this dissection, we were able to identify the pig's approximate age, gender, analyze its external and internal structures, and practice our suturing skills. Thanks for watching, and make sure to hit that like button and subscribe.